Welcome to the lecture over the 4 different types of plants. We did already look at one of those 4 types yesterday, which was the non-vascular plants called Bryophytes, which were those mosses, liverworts, and hornworts. Remember, they have no vascular tissue, and that water moves by osmosis, and they grow really low to the ground. But today we're going to move away from the Bryophytes, that first type, and go into the other 3 types, which are the vascular plants. There are 3 different types of vascular plants that we're going to talk about. First is ferns, which are seedless plants, Gymnosperms, which their seeds are found in cones, and then Angiosperms, which seeds are then found in the flowers. Let's first look at the ferns, or seedless plants. Ferns are seedless vascular plants, and they're very primitive vascular plants. They're believed to be the first ones, the first land plants after the non-vascular plants. They are seedless. They reproduce by forming spores, which these are the spores on the bottom of the leaves of these ferns. They are vascular. They do have vascular tissue in here to transport water up the plant, and they require water for reproduction, so they need an abundance of water in order to create these spores to reproduce. So once again, they are seedless vascular plants that reproduce by spores, and so those little sporangium on the bottom of the leaves that we saw here are going to release those spores and produce gametophytes, and then zygotes, and then it'll create the plant of the fern for the next plant. The next type of plants are Gymnosperms. These are cone-bearing plants, so their seeds are found within the cone. These are vascular as well, so they have vascular tissue. They produce seeds in these woody cones here. Those seeds are considered naked seeds, and the water is not needed for reproduction of these organisms. So we have 2 different structures here on the cones. We have the male structure here, which contains the pollen, and then this is the female structure here that has the seeds in the cone. So this is the reproduction of Gymnosperms. We have the mature tree here that has the female cone and the male cone. When they interact with one another, the pollen from the male and the seeds from the female, when they come into interaction with one another, they're going to create an ovule, or surviving spore, which goes to a gametophyte. The fertilization occurs to create the zygote in the embryo, and then mitosis is just going to occur to create the young sporophyte, which is the young tree, and then it'll grow into a mature sporophyte. Now, what are the advantages of having seeds? Seeds have a food supply for the growing plant. They're protected by a seed coat. There's less competition between the parents, and water isn't needed for fertilization of these seeds. This is the structure of a seed. So you'll have a seed coat with an embryo, and then around that embryo is going to have a stored food supply, so that that embryo can survive off of that food supply until it can start photosynthesis. The next type of plant that we're going to look at is flowering plants. These are plants with flowers. They are called Angiosperms. These are vascular as well, so they have that vascular tissue to transport the water and nutrients. They produce flowers. They develop seeds and fruits, which help protect the embryo, and they're divided into 2 groups, monocots and dicots. So monocot angiosperms have 1 seed leaf in the embryo. These are things like grasses, orchids, lily, and palms. In their leaves, you'll see parallel veins. So to determine monocots, you'll see veins in their leaves. And then their flower parts are in multiples of 3. And so you'll see either 3 petals, or 6 petals, or 9, but it'll be in multiples of 3. Dicots have 2 seed leaves in the embryo. Most of our flowering plants are dicots. There are netted branching veins in these organisms, so instead of them being parallel veins, you're going to see them branching off like so. And flower parts are going to be in multiples of 4 or 5. So let's see, 4, 5, 8, 10, any of those multiples. So here is the differences between the two. Monocots have more fibrous roots, while dicots have tap roots. If you look at the vascular tissue within monocots, vascular tissue is all around in theirs, while they are ringed in dicots. Once again, the leaves have parallel veins in monocots and net or branched veins in dicots. And then the flowers are in multiples of 3 in monocots and multiples of 4 or 5 in dicots. So once again, parallel veins in monocots with the vascular tissue just random in the stem. And then the dicot has branching leaves, and then the cross section they're going to be in a ring on the outer.